Good evening, everybody. Sorry we're a little late, but we had some last minute adjustments to make. But this is the Muzzle Is Off Podcast, and I am your host, Nikiya Mone. But we got a special treat for y'all tonight because technically I'm the host, but I'm not the host tonight. I'm the one that's going to be interviewed tonight. So we got Leron Atkinson with us here, and he is going to be the one that is interviewing me on this evening. We also got a little plot twist here because we actually have my sister here, Nikiya, who chose not to be on camera, by the way. I'm just letting y'all know. But we got a little plot twist here because the reason why I asked her to join on is because everything that I ever experienced in church, she literally was a witness to. She was a witness to a lot, and she has a lot to say about it. And I wanted her to be on the podcast today because I think that it is imperative that sometimes we understand that it is not just the one person experiencing their it's in the church. It is actually their family. It is their friends. It is everyone that is really connected to them that are experiencing it with them. And a lot of times we don't understand how they can be affected by it. Whether it's just like emotional, like they just feel bad for you, whether it can change or alter their view on certain things. So we're here to talk about it, and that's what we're here to do. And I'm going to really turn this over to Leron. Leron can definitely introduce himself. Leron be acting up, and that is why he is on here as the good interviewer that he is, because I honestly, when I thought of doing this in this style, the only person I could really think of to do this interview was Leron. So I literally reached out to him like, I really need you to do this. I need you to interview me. And the reason being is because he's the only one that could really draw out and expound on and really relate to all of the truth in which I have to share. So go ahead, Leron. I'm turning this over to you.
Well, Nikiya, first and foremost, I'm glad to be here on your show, on the popular trend word, on your platform, on your stage, to be here, but more specifically to just be a part of what you're doing, even in its early inception. I think it's really good to be there for people and around for people when they start. You know, that's the hardest time and the most challenging time when you're trying to get out there, you're trying to build, you're trying to do. Mm-hmm. Those are the times you really need some healthy relationships around to help push you in various ways. And so I'm just glad to be here. I'm glad to be a part of the beginning of these earliest stages, to contribute in whatever way I can. I'm trying to just send this on social media. I'm not on as much as I used to. 2020 has just been a whole lot for a lot of people, and I am not exempt. And that's going to lead me right into this. So I'm just trying to share this, and then I'm going to make sure that I share this on your page. Boom. Because I almost forgot how to use a little bit of some of my things. Sometimes people just sit there, I post and go. But anyhow, because of that, I had not been as up on the Muzzle Is Off Podcast. So I had a chance to familiarize myself more so with the Muzzle Is Off. I have had a chance, of course, to know you and to get to know you as a person. So when I saw the title, one of the first things that stood out to me was that it is so much your personality. So I had a visual of what it was going to be about, what it was going to be like, how it was going to be laid. So when you asked me to do this interview, I was like, oh, this is going to really, really be good. So now you have plot twisted a plot twister. So I'm kind of interested in what this latter segment is going to be, because, we know each other. But for the sake of what we need to do here, I want to help pull out some other things that may help, people know you better in a different way. So I wanted to ask you, and these are some of my questions and thoughts that came to me while I was listening. Of your podcast, what has been your favorite so far?
I can honestly say one of my favorite conversations literally was on human sexuality. And it was on the diversity of the panel that came to discuss human sexuality. And it was even in the differences that we had as we were discussing human sexuality. Because I had, representatives from the church, representatives from the LGBTQIA plus community, and the vast differences, but also the learning experience that it gave for everybody to grow and to learn from, and to understand that although you might not agree, you should be able to come down to a common ground of understanding of each person's position and each person's plight in each person's life. You know, because a lot of times, especially in the church world, we judge people before we actually get to know them. So we want to judge you based on what we know about you, but we don't want to get to know you to understand you. And that was one of the best, I could say, series or segments, or, you know, that I did. It was really on that human sexuality. And then when I kind of flipped it into it's in the church, and literally reaching out to people to discuss certain things with them, that just literally heightened my my awareness, I'm gonna say, because I'm aware, but it literally heightened my awareness to say, you know what? No, we need to talk about this, because this is affecting too many people for us not to talk about it.
Second question.
Mm-hmm.
What was your least favorite so far?
I'm going to say
podcast of your own.
Right. This is what I will say. My least favorite had a lot to do with not the actual topic, but the actual lack of understanding and argument.
Okay.
I believe that we as a people need to learn how to communicate without attacking. And I believe that we as a people need to learn how to communicate, not to, you know, oftentimes we think that we got to communicate to come to a common ground of agreement, and we don't. The only thing we need to do is come to a common ground of understanding. Whether I agree with you does not matter, but understanding. And what I did not like, I'm going to tell you that the least thing that I liked was, I believe one person left the podcast possibly feeling misunderstood and attacked. And I didn't like that at all, because I don't ever want anyone to feel that way leaving off of this podcast, that, you know, that they're not understood and that they're attacked, and that that their point or that their voice wasn't heard, because that's not who I am.
Wonderful. This segues me into, this is one of the reasons why I accepted and I came on. I've not done an interview or anything of sorts for a while, but it's so rare to have someone that is so dedicated and embedded into who they are until it bleeds out of what they do, how they do it. So for those who are watching, Nikiya has no idea what questions I'm going to ask or where it's going to come from. We just naturally flow. I just like pulling the people out of the people, and because it's there. So one of the things that I just enjoy about your personality is that you're focused, you're targeted in your conversations. And that's why I know that your podcast is going to be successful. It's going to be great. You're focused, you're targeted, and you're ready. You know, when your answers are your answers, they're not contrived or picked from anywhere else. They come from your heart. You can drop on a dime and say, this is where I am. And your answers are so concise and so sharp, so truthful. Mm-hmm. At times that it could be extremely offensive. And a lot of times when people are that truthful or genuine, it creates problems. It creates challenges. People are going to be pissed off. They're going to have issues, etc. Not because you're aggressive, but because of how you speak or how you talk. So when I listen to a few of your podcasts, and I'll get into that a little bit later, there's a tone. And sometimes that tone can seem, for those who may not be familiar with it, people can really feel like, who do you think you are to talk like this? What have you gone through? What have you been through? And it can almost lock you into a space where you have to talk about what I've been through. But when I hear you move in various topics, these are not necessarily all of your experiences, but your awareness is in a space because of, I think, what you said earlier, understandings being open. So how do you get to a space where, number one, you're knowing different people that are helping to educate you and bring about understandings that help you formulate podcast topics that may not necessarily be who you are or where you are, but you have understandings from life and from other spaces. How do you generate those people, and how do you generate the conversations that create topics that muzzles have to come off?
Well, because I truly believe that you are the sum total of your life experiences, right? I might not have personally experienced certain things, But because I have met so many different people in life, and because I'm not closed off to people, you meet so many people that, oh no, I can't talk to you. Oh no, I can't. No, we can't break bread. To the point where you only begin to associate or communicate with one set group of people. And then you're not even diverse within your communication, because the only way how you are learned to speak is to that group. I don't ever want to just speak to one group. I want to relate to everybody. So in my life, I have been the person that can literally communicate with anybody and be able to get with you on whatever level that you're on, and be able to, you know what I'm saying, talk. Like we have an issue with talking. We don't know how to speak to people. And because we don't know how to speak to people, we don't know how to relate to people. And throughout my life, I was just like, I'm not a box, and you're not going to close me into a box, you know, and I refuse to be placed into a box. I refuse to be viewed as a box. So therefore, I'm going to communicate with whoever the hell I choose to communicate with. And I'm going to gain knowledge from them. I am going to grow with them. We are going to experience whatever we're going to experience. This is how we're going to do it. And I think that is important, because I never just want to be a one-sided person. Like I'm tunnel vision, you know what I'm saying? Like I'm like that horse riding down Fifth Avenue from like Central Park, and I got these blinders on, and this is the only way I see. No, I need to see all around me. I need to see everybody. And that's how I am. I want to see everybody. I was raised that way. I believe that way. I want to see everybody, period. So that's where all of this
you're raised from. That way.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I want to gather and I want to get into. When you were raised that way, like, is there someone that you knew personally, you know, auntie, a cousin, an uncle, a best friend? You know, I think that as life changes, as we grow, as we develop, as you move and maneuver, eventually you learn that we're not so far away from one another in one space or the next. One of the things that, you know, I try to ask people now, be like, you know, I just love you. I just like you. Well, what do you like about me? What is it that you love? What is it that about me that's missable or that adds such value to your life, etc., whatever? I want to be able to qualify that. Mm-hmm. You just can't randomly say, etc., without definition. Because when I know what that definition is, it helps me to place what's going on, etc. Anyway, I know what I like about you. One of the things that I like or that stood out about you, I said, this is going to be a very interesting interview, is that I like people who stand up for themselves. I do. I don't care, especially if you can just stand flat-footed by yourself against a group, and that could be your family, your cousins, your in-laws. I don't need to call anybody. I don't need to write anybody. None of the above. Here I am. This is what it is, etc. And it's not even for me to take sides. It's just me reminiscing from a place of nostalgia. I know that feeling, that energy. Like, I don't need everyone to validate whether I'm right. I'm not even trying to be right, or it's not right or wrong. It is. It's just, it's a flow. It's continuity. Sometimes a huge challenge with that is, you know, people like you later. They don't like you at first. Mm-mm. They learn to appreciate you after, you know, experiencing other things. So as you're maneuvering and you're developing, you know, contact, as you're developing content, are there any topics, are there any subjects that you stay away from or that you avoid?
No, I refuse. And I refuse because I believe that that's one of the issues. That's why the muzzle had to come off. We can't keep avoiding topics. We can't keep brushing things under a rug, sweeping things under a rug, piling things up underneath a closet, piling things up in a closet, piling things up underneath a carpet, and acting like these things are not here. They're here. And that's why we got to talk about it, because it's here. This is happening. And a lot of times people think that because, oh no, you can't talk about this. No, I can and I will. You know, because God didn't tell me to be quiet. He might have told you to be quiet, which is why you're silent on things that are important. But guess what? This woman has a voice and she needs it to be heard. This man has a voice and he needs it to be heard. This person has a voice and they need it to be heard. I believe in that because for so long, people kept telling me to be quiet. Don't say nothing. Be quiet. You just got to keep moving forward. Well, how are you silencing me and telling me I need to move forward at the same time? You're actually placing me in a position of bondage and telling me to move forward in shackles. And anybody knows that if you place shackles around somebody's ankle, they can only take a couple steps at a time. So you're shackling me because you only want me to take a couple steps at a time. And no, I'm going to take leaps and bounds. So I'm going to remove these shackles and I'm going to remove this muzzle and I'm going to talk about what everybody needs to talk about. People need healing. People need freedom. People need so many different things. And the longer we try and tell them, you can't talk about that. Even human sexuality, you can't talk about that. Why are you talking about that? Why are you talking about human sexuality in the church? Because y'all are nasty. That's why. That's why. Half y'all sleeping with all these people because you have not discovered who you are sexually. So I'm going to talk about it. We're going to talk about the fact that you have all these suppressed feelings and emotions and you act them out in a certain way based on your social construct. So now here's what we have. But y'all want to talk about how gay people are formed. It's a spirit. Oh, okay. Well, we're going to allow you to think that it is a spirit. And I'm going to allow the good LGBTQIA community to come on my platform. And I'm going to allow them to speak freely about how, and it's not even a decision, but how I am who I am, why I am who I am, and what makes me who I am. You understand what I'm saying? So that we can debunk all of this foolishness and let people speak for themselves and not based on what you assume. And that's what I want. I want to break the boundaries of assumption. So that's why I'm like, no, nothing's off limits. We're going to talk about what we're going to talk about. If you're an adulterous woman or man, because you like to sleep with married people, we're going to talk about it.
If I were to ask you, what was one of the most memorable experiences that you've had so far since you've been doing your podcast? What would you say? Most memorable.
I would say one of the most memorable experience. I kid you not. I'm telling you, that human sexuality conversation literally just took over. And the reason being is because you had Sade, who is a trans woman. You had, Marcus, you had Jamel, you had Corey, you had Gail, and it got so heated and passionate, right? Mm-hmm. I like passionate conversation because I can understand it because I'm a passionate person. Mm-hmm. And oftentimes people mistake passion for anger and aggression. No, it's passion. You know what I'm saying? If I'm passionate about something, I'm going to speak about it with such energy in order to help you understand this is what I'm passionate about. I need you to feel my heart on this subject. That just took over. Another, I'm going to say one of the most memorable, honestly, was last week. When I interviewed Dr. Chanel. And the reason being is because her story touched me in such a way that I knew it would relate to, and it could relate to both men and women that had experienced what she experienced in the church. Mm-hmm. And that to me is important because it's allowing someone's voice to be heard, even though they already wrote about it, but now they're actually speaking about what they wrote. And the fact that she entrusted me to be her first interview ever. She just put the book out like in March, and she hadn't even done anything with it. So as far as interviews were concerned. So the fact that she trusted me and this platform to actually come on and speak about it, that to me, that was just like that. It honestly solidified why I'm here.
Wow.
Yeah.
One of the things that I'll say this now, I'll give space for the plot twist. And you said this, the word you used was passion. And I think that's a great word, for a descriptive. And I think that in everything that at least I've seen you do in our conversation, there's always been a passion. And whatever it is you were doing, whatever you were saying, whatever was being communicated, it's here. If I like it, there's a passion. If I don't like it, there's a passion. If I'm interested, there's a passion. If I'm disinterested, I'm passionately no, I really mean it. I'm thoroughly disinterested. And if you're not used to hearing people just be clear about where they are, how they feel, you could be very offended by it versus appreciate it, because I don't have to wonder what you're thinking. Where's your mind? Are you now wondering, like, when this is all, like, what's the return on this? And that passion, all of that fuel. My question is going to be, maybe it may take you a second to think this. When you have that level of passion and that level of fire, it's huge to be able to be a liberator, but also at the same time, how you liberate and how you liberate can be wounding. It can hurt you. Mm-hmm. Freeing people like Harriet Tubman. It's a few of these ninjas that I might have to shoot. There's a huge risk associated with helping. So when you cover these podcasts and you're talking, there are people, relationships that are going to be developed that are going to pull more from you than you may even be able to give at this time, because it creates so much work and so many other things. The thing about passion is it can help fuel you to just drive and push. Have you yet been wounded by anyone you sought to help, or hurt by someone that you've tried to help? Just in these, since you began, like, what can you tell people that want to begin works that are actually going to help change people, mentalities, constructs, ideas?
I have not yet been necessarily wounded or hurt thus far. What I will say is that there has been a lot left open for question, right? Because I have a passion to help people, right? And I have a passion to help people because I've been hurt so much by people. And I have a passion to help people because I've been dropped so much by people. And I had to learn that even with my passion to help, I have to be sure that that help is wanted, because you can't force help onto anybody. And I had to learn that through the course of experience of being hurt while helping pre-podcast, right? So now with the podcast, when I approach people to say, okay, I want you to come on and I want you to talk about this. I want you to come on and we're going to talk about that. One of the things that even for myself I'm doing is ensuring that healing is a process for everybody. And we have to ensure that during the course of what we're talking about, we're not furthering the wound of anybody. And that we can bring about some form or some level of comfort to a person. And that's why I said that human sexuality was major for me, because I felt that there were at least possibly maybe two people that I'm not going to say they left wounded, but due to the level of passion and the level of frustration that was shared, they could have left feeling that they did not get their point across in order to further explain what their point was, what they were trying to say, and that is important to me. So I have not necessarily been hurt yet. And I say yet because it can happen, right? It can happen at any moment in time. It really can happen. But what I will say is that I believe I'm prepared for it, right? Not necessarily the hurt, but in order to deal with it, better than I probably would have ever been maybe 2 years ago, right? Because I believe that when you step up to the plate to handle this level of a platform, to give people voices, to voice and discuss things that are not common, that people are not commonly talking about. I think that it is important that you have to, I utilize other people, right, outside of the podcast, and I might bounce off of them. One person, which she helps me with everything that I do as far as the business is concerned, she literally told me, as you continue to give people voices for their healing, continue in your own healing process, right? I have another person, I have a friend, he was actually monumental in me even starting this entire platform. And I bounce everything off of him. Like, okay, this is how I feel. And I have the ability to go to these two trusted people if I feel some type of way in order to process through like a feeling, and I think that is important because oftentimes when you truly are gifted for healing, right? You can get wounded in the process. It's part of the process. And you have to have a trusted group of people that you can go to say, okay, I need to bounce this off of you because this is how I'm feeling. And, and especially my friend, he is like monumental. Like he'll just be like, okay, Nikiya, so and so and so. Like he'll come on and he'll watch. And then afterwards he'll give me his commentary and be like, okay, I saw you made this face here. So what happened? And it's good to be able to do that because I don't ever want to pick up something that really ain't for me.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Passion is so huge. Anything that you don't have a passion for or towards, even in tone and conversation, someone else's passion can become your passion if you're not careful.
Mm-hmm.
And that'll kill what you're doing. And the reason I asked you about that, sometimes, people begin great works and you start off really strong. It's amazing.
And then
I want to help people. And even if you don't experience it, like it's challenging, like, it'll be a while before I'm hurt by somebody. Like, hurt. Now you may get something else, but there are a wide range of emotions that actually go along with any calling, anything you're purposed to do, because it's, there's such a human element to it on your side, and whoever it is you're dealing with, it's a social work, something you're called to socially. And because of that, there's going to be someone that you can't help and someone that you do. And I was actually having a conversation with a friend of mine about it. Persons who are called to, civic positions, just varying positions that after you helped, you really put yourself in a space where you're vulnerable, because to help, you have to give some level of relationship and access.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes after you helping the wrong one, there are people who will come to you in the name of needing help and needing your services just to get access to abuse or harm what it is that you're doing. So one of the most helpful things that I heard, and I tell people this all the time, is that it seemed really cruel. This information is, don't fall in love with the people. Don't fall in love. Sounds real strange. And having passion is so separate than just having this loose emotional love for everything that you're doing. So it blocks you from being able to reach out and touch more people. One of the things that I loved about your podcast is it wasn't locked into one space or into one area where there's no movement and there's no mobility. To me, you're a person that, you need that. You need to move. Like I say, I laugh. I like I said too, you're Capricorn. Like I like space. Don't tell me who I can like, who I can love. I will like you. That's my temper. It's always been me. I'm not going to be boxed in or put in a space or whatever. That's that. In order to have someone to push out what you're doing. And I watched your podcast. I actually did watch the one on human sexuality. So you've cut out a few of my commentary there. But again, to see that passion bleed through you, that's going to be such a huge part of all you do. And I'm looking forward to seeing that glow through all of your podcasts, all of your posts, all of those things. So sometimes people can see that the versatility in who you are and in what you do. I'm gonna let space for a little plot twist.
Come on. Look, hold on, wait, I gotta get my fan. I be feeling like, look, I really need to start the fan before we start, because I already know I'm gonna get hot with this darn light. This light. Look,
I'm gonna have my water. So let's go.
Come on, listen. Let me. He about to hit this good plot twist. Nikiya, you ready? She ready. She unmuted herself.
Okay.
Look, y'all, we going into the plot twist. I'm trying to tell y'all. It's the plot twist of plot twist. How about that?
Well, while she's figuring it, when you say the muzzle is off, what did that mean to you, Nikiya? I think you wanted that to be a first question, but I really don't like, I like to go a little different way.
Listen, that's all right. We ain't traditional. We Capricorns. We don't do nothing traditionally. Okay.
Not team.
Hello.
Not team.
We gonna ask around about, then hit it back, and we're okay with that. No, honestly, it really just meant being uninhibited. Like there are no limits here. You know, there's no so-called glass ceiling that you can't reach. You know, that you can't go beyond. There are no limits here. We are uninhibited. We are uncut. We are raw. You know, and I wanted it that way because I wanted people to be free. And that's what the Muzzle Is Off podcast means. It's a place of freedom. It is a place of you literally are not in bondage. You literally, we are going to talk about so many different things that are literally going to change even the trajectory for your own personal life as you begin to speak about whatever it is, whatever topic that we're going to talk about. That's what I'm here for. I love to hear people even after coming on the podcast, and they'll reach back out to me like, you know what, that muzzle came off and I'm ready to do this. I'm like, yes, that's what we are here for. I want you to do what you want to do. I want you to change your life direction. I don't want you to be mediocre. I don't want you to stay the same. I want everybody to move forward. And that's why I feel that the muzzle had to come off. Like, even for myself, the muzzle had to come off my mouth in order for me to move forward. Because if I did not release the beast, I would have still been stuck in the same position, in the same predicament. Woe is me. I am a victim. No, I'm not. And we're going to use everything that has ever happened to fuel this entire podcast. Whether it be an experience that I actually experienced, or whether I know it's someone else's experience and they hit me up and like, you know what, we should talk about this. I'm like, you know what, you're right, we should, and we're going to do that. Here's when we're going to do it, and you're going to be the first guest to do it. I want that. You know, and my friend, he is notorious because he literally is connecting me with so many different people and be like, you know what, and he'll literally inbox me with a group of people and be like, you need to talk to her because you need to be on her podcast because I think y'all got dope energy and y'all can do this. You know what? You need to do this, that, and the third. And then me and the people will get together and we'll talk. I'm like, you know what? Yeah, this is what we're going to do. So I like that. I like being able to connect with versatile people and talk about whatever it is that we need to talk about and be free to talk about it. That's why the muzzle had to come off. That's what the muzzle is up. You're uninhibited. You're uncut. We are raw. This is what we're going to do. And point blank period, nobody's stopping it. Like nobody.
Joy. Something muzzle is it's two ways. Like it's a bridle or it's a muzzle because you got to bite. So either way, I'm trying to block from being bit. You know, and that's one of the things too. When I saw it, I said, well, what does this mean? Is this my muzzle is off because I'm going to speak out, or is a muzzle off because if I need to bite you, I will too.
But that's what
duality there.
But that's what it is, right?
In the space. And I think that's healthy. I think it's healthy. The type of leaders that are going to be tantamount to bringing about change and being influencers, you got to be able to bite. You need to. You have to. You can't be passive. You cannot use those tools that worked yesterday. You really can't. So it was a very interesting name and very, very befitting. Very befitting.
It had to come off for the simple fact that so many people will literally. So you don't want me to speak because it's something that DMX was it DMX? No, or was it Snoop Dogg? He said, "My bark is loud, but my bite isn't vicious." I think that was Snoop or whoever said it, right? But everybody who knows me knows that I got a loud bark and I got an even ferocious bite. So if I speak the truth, my bite is going to be felt across whomever needs to feel it. And I decided that some of y'all need to feel this bite. And the muzzle came off because some of y'all really needed to feel this bite because some of y'all.
Like that. That's a whole sound bite or something.
Hello.
Y'all need to feel the bite.
Y'all need to feel the bite.
Exactly. Okay? I like it.
Yeah, because some of y'all thought that y'all were going to get away with some things that y'all did. No, you're not. And the way how I'm going to bring it about is I'm going to talk about it. And it's not to be spiteful. It's not to hurt, but it's for people to understand that you can't just do what you want to do to people and think that you're going to get away with it. No, you cannot. Right. That's why the Bible says that, like, you know what I'm saying? Like the tongue is sharper than any double-edged swords. It could cut going out and it could cut going in. This is why we have
the thunder of soul and spirit and the bone and marrow.
Hello.
Scripture says.
So therefore, we have a tongue that is supposed to be used in order to speak. But we try to muzzle people by telling people, no, you can't talk about that. No, you can't do this. No, I can. And the intention behind what I'm doing is not to actually harm you, but if it does, it can also heal you. So be delivered, be set free, be whole, and understand what I'm doing. Because I'm not.
I have a whole nother thing, but this is your interview. I'm gonna leave that whole second. I'm maintaining my posture.
You ain't got to maintain your posture over here.
That's loaded. That's loaded.
Because it's the truth, and people are scared of the truth, and I don't have time for it. And that's why I said, when I speak, it's going to be intentional. I'm not just speaking frivolously. A lot of people, people think this and people could think that, and you got to be careful about that. I'm not careful about anything. I know what I'm saying, and I know why I'm saying it.
Yeah, this is not that time to be careful. Period.
No.
If you're trying to be careful, this is not your time. It's not your season. Nothing's gonna happen for you. It's not that time to be careful. If you're gonna do it, it's time to do it. You said it was a scripture that Jesus said, "Who lights a candle and puts it underneath a basket or a bushel?" That's not what fire does. Fire is supposed to burn. It's supposed to be noticeable. It's supposed to be seen. It's supposed to be experienced. And that is where the passion of who you are. It's a fire. God doesn't put that in you for you to hide it and worry about this one and that one. Screw those people. That's been my mantra for years. Screw those people. And the beautiful thing about having the type of versatility that you have, being able to speak in these different spaces, the more a person is called to be a creative, et cetera, and to be in the space that you're in, you're going to constantly recreate so many people that you don't have time to pause to just get stuck in one space with one group or one setting or one type people anyway, because you'll be mobile. You're not here for all of the, emotional, et cetera, all the other extra trappings. You got to do your job and stay focused on that. So that's really good. That's why I asked about this, about this muzzle. So you just want to take their muzzle off and then move on and unmuzzle the next group.
Yep. Everybody, take the muzzle off. We're going to remove it, let you be free, and let's go. We're going to unmuzzle this group. We're going to remove it, let them be free, and we're going to unmuzzle this group. There are so many people that have been bound by a muzzle. And it's whatever your muzzle is, because it's not necessarily a physical thing. Your muzzle can be guilt. It can be shame. It can be so many different things. And it's saying, okay, now we're going to remove this. We're removing all of that. We're removing the guilt. We're removing the shame. We're removing the pain. We're removing the hurt. We're going to remove all of that. Take that muzzle off of you, because that's what's holding you back from actually speaking. And now I want you to speak.
And bite.
Hello, because
and bite. When you learn how to speak, you learn how to use your mouth, then you'll bite too. Sometimes that's what's missing. Some people are missing that bite part.
And let me say this, because I had to get my bite back, okay? Because when I first entered the good Black church, they took my good bite away from me, right? You got to be humble. You got to be meek. You got to be mild. You got to be kind. You got to be loved. You got to be all. So I was humble, meek, mild, kind, loving, all that stuff. Lost my good bite. Didn't want to fight. Didn't want to say nothing. Was all, you know what I'm saying? And then I realized, I said, these ninjas over here are really trying to take my good, meek mildness for granted. And Nadia, remember, I was like, I really think I got to bring like Nikiya back so that people can understand, like, I am not her. This is the God in me that's showing you all of this tender, loving, mercy, and kindness. But Nikiya is not, no, that's not Nikiya. That's not how I am. And I had to get, like, it took me years of deliverance to get my bite back. I had to get delivered from the church concept of meek and mild. And I had to learn that even Jesus flipped some tables, you know what I'm saying? And although Peter got rebuked for cutting off the ear, but he still yet did it. Jesus had to, restore it. But okay, some of y'all gonna be restored by Jesus, not by me, because I'm gonna cut you.
Agreed.
Be restored by Jesus, not by me.
Well, listen,
I'm
all for that. I don't even have commentary. I was laughing. I started preaching at 15. And I mean, back in the day, before there was a Facebook, right. You have never seen anybody people be healed and saved. But when it was over, they say leader 1, 99 to go get that one. When somebody crossed me for that one person, I'd clear the room. I'm telling you, whole groups. They like, Atkinson is blessed, but he crazy.
Atkinson.
Yeah. And I'm more mature. I've gotten better, but back in the day on a Sunday, turned thoroughly. Track record.
Let me tell you something. That last one I was with literally brought the fight, Nikiya, because I was good and nice and kind. But that last one I was with brought that good Nikiya back to the point where I ain't care. No, I was like, you know what? Never mind. I'm going to the church. I don't even care.
I want to say this. I'm gonna let you say. I think that everybody, truth be told, has to get to a space where you get all of that out of you. Whoever placed a construct, the idea in you that is non-relational, it's probably more societal and cultural, but it's not true to you. Everybody in my Christian walk and as a believer that I ever had to cuss out, had problems with, they had demons. Now, maybe how I responded may have been a little different than how society would have thought. Mm-hmm. However, nonetheless, what I mean is, like David, he had to go for Goliath. All of these, the Bible characters were not these nice, humble gentlemen that they will tell you have to be, or ladies that you have to be. They were fighters. They were aggressive. That's who they were in the scripture. Now, how it's been conveyed throughout, throughout church, be holy, be meek. It's conveyed to us by people who are not holy and who are not meek.
Not meek or holy.
So there's a whole lot of inward hypocrisies that are there. So when someone tries to bring that over to me, I'm like you. I'm a loving person. I'm cool. I'm casual. That's me. That's who I prefer to be. But when you're nice and cool and casual, people try you. But inside this light one is a very dark negress, and you have to, you can't speak in tongues. You can't do any of that. You can't. So you're going to look crazy to a set over here and real holy to a set over there. As long as this holy set over here doesn't try to act crazy with me over there, then your holy set won't know I'm crazy too. So there are times and spaces that, you got to be all things to all people. So I fully get that. I know how the saints are. And they come in line. People come to me 20 years later thanking me for how I cussed them out 15 years ago. They do. I appreciate it. Because what I realize is I'm a blessed person. Whatever I say, whatever I do carries blessings with it. Even if I cussed you, the words I used and I chose, they were surgically healing. They were medicinal. They were healthy. They aided you. It did something in your soul and your spirit and your mind that made you never able to forget it. I know the power of my words. I know the weight of them. And someone like, well, I can't believe you saying cuss. Whatever the language, whatever the word choice it was, they're weight in my words. It is above me.
Hello.
And those who are called to a purpose and with a passion, your words are above you. There's weight, there's influence there that it carries. And even who you speak to, they corrected their life when I finished with them. They were like, well, you cut me off, so I wasn't able to tell you, but thank you. No one has ever said that to me like that, but thank you somewhat. So I say all that to say, never underestimate the power of your words and of releasing your words, even to people who may not like your words at the time you release them, because that's your job. It's to stand in your future and tell you what you need to know before you get there. That's my job, to bring you into the future with my podcast, with this Muzzle Off. You may not know that you need this lesson or this conversation, but when you get in your future and you need that conversation and you need to know a person or persons to talk to that may have some level of conversation to unlock that space in your life, That's when you now go back and say, I need to go back and talk to people I thought was mad, mean, crazy, bitter, upset, angry, because those are the people who really had truths long before
Right.
somebody dumb told you they were all those things that you listened to.
Somebody dumb. Go ahead.
But anyway, stop talking. Nadia. Oh, there she is. Yeah, I see her. She's back. We waiting on Nadia. I thought Nadia was coming with her. She had something she was going to share.
Come on, Nadia, share.
What am I sharing?
Share about whatever you want to share. I'll say it like this. I'll do like this. So for people who don't know, Nadia is my sister. And you know what? We're going to be truthful. We're going to tell it. I met Nadia a little before I really entered the church world, right, Nadia? Like it was like a few months before I entered the church world is when I met Nadia, right? So I entered the good Black church world in towards the end of 2007. I met Nadia about
that
September. Labor Day. So a little background is the fact that me and Nadia, we have the same father. But I wasn't raised with my biological father's family. So I didn't meet Nadia until I was about 26 years old, right? And however, it was kind of like when we met, we just clicked like instantaneously, like, oh, snap, I got a sister, you my sister, yay, we sisters, this is what we gonna do. And a little bit after we met was when I started going to church. And she was with me.
Yeah, she dragged me.
I did. Look, her and Jason.
Her and my child, my poor baby.
He was all right. He slept most of the time. He definitely did sleep, though. Jason was knocked out. But she was with me during some of the toughest times that I can honestly say that I had in ministry from that time in 2008 all the way going up until, 2 years ago. And she was with me during that time. And let me say that, Nadia, how did all that make you feel? Like as you watch a lot of stuff go on?
It just turned me off from that type of a church. And the people, and most of the people that you still associate with, I still don't like. Because I just think they are shady. And that at the end of the day, for them to be so sanctified and holy, they did a lot of things towards you and spoke against you and then try to smile in your face when they see you though. They did. And I'm talking about first ladies, pastors, the whole nine.
I like family members.
Plot twist. So let me
both churches too, St. Paul and the one in
oh Lord,
in
she
Harlem.
Don't we love family? We just start naming the names of the churches and stuff. Let me say, okay, what? All right, compared to churches that you know, how do you classify them churches?
I don't like, you know what it is? I don't like small churches because I just feel like everybody's in everybody's business. And then I just feel like from the small churches that I went to with you, everybody's sleeping with everybody, but yet everybody's talking about everybody sleeping around, but yet they be part of the sleeping around crew. And you can't say you don't like gossiping when you the main one gossiping.
So you saw a lot of the hypocrisy, a lot of lying.
And I just feel like when I go to, like, for instance, E9 and like those bigger churches, it's not as much because you just go, you hear the word. I've never been one to get all wrapped up and involved and want to be around all the people all the time and listening to all the things that they're doing and try to be super active. I just like to go get my word and go about my business. And with them small churches, it just seems like nobody ever does that.
What they doing to you?
They just be all in everybody's business.
That's honest though. And that is so let me say this. And for those, everybody that knows me knows that, number one, I'm very honest concerning my experiences inside the church world. I have not necessarily discussed it on this podcast, but that's why we talk about it's in the church today. What Nikiya is referencing is true, right? She witnessed a lot of things that happened because she was there with me. She witnessed people talking. She witnessed people judging. She witnessed people, throwing things up in the face and saying things behind the back. Then it coming to the forefront. She witnessed a lot of this stuff that was going on. And as a sister, what I will say was that she was always supportive. She never came out and was like, Nikiya, why do you keep going there? Why do you keep? She never did that. She would just be like, are you okay? How do you feel? And for me, it was just like, you know what? I just got to I took on the role of, I got to deal with all of this, right? I got to make this right. I got to fix all of this. I got to do this, that, and the third. And when you are a family member and you're watching your family member go through all of their experiences, and then you're watching it and it's happening in the church, you begin to formulate an opinion on those churches. And then when you see that, when you go to another church, now, whether or not it was happening in the bigger churches or not, it's not as prevalent because you might not feel it. You might not see it as you might see it in a smaller church, because in a smaller church is more intimate. So therefore, like she said, everybody's in everybody's business. Everybody knows everybody's business. Everybody's talking about everybody's business. So you will begin to see it on a larger scale in a smaller church than you will in a bigger church, because in a bigger church, you are literally going in, you are receiving your word, and you are going home. Unless you're one of those people that are really trying to seek out a leadership position or whatever inside of a bigger church. So therefore, you might go into more ministerial classes and do all of the extra stuff or whatever. But for the most part, I have never necessarily been a part of a bigger church. I've always been a part of small, intimate churches that I now call the Chitlin Circuit of churches. And it is what it is. And y'all get mad every time I say it, and I don't care, because that's what it is. When you are a part of churches that literally just exude and personify mess and messiness, and they begin to stink, and no matter how many times you try to soak them in the good waters of baptism, and they still stink, and they cannot be cleaned out, this is what you have. And this is the experience of family. This is the experience of friends. Like, there were friends that actually watched this, all of this stuff go down. There were friends that literally tried to guide me through all of this stuff and warn me through all of this stuff and, coach me through all of this stuff. So it was a lot. Go ahead, Leron. So I just had to get a little background.
Well, here's the thing. I have been a part of large churches. I've preached for quite a few small churches. I know them very well. So in that time, I would say that it's a mentality. There have been places that were small that had large mentalities, and places that were large that had very small mentalities. Some of the larger places make you be like, I done had to snatch some of the large ones' souls and some of the small ones' souls too. It's a mentality, and cross-denominational as well. And people are people in whatever construct and wherever they go. I put the emphasis more so on a person after you have had that experience. And I think some do need some levels of awareness and awakenings when it comes to who you're around and what you even allow yourself to believe is over you in that space, or speaking or pouring into you. And when you run into and realize that you can't really trust that or this or that or the other, it really puts you back in perspective of where you need to be. beyond all of the different things that people are going to do, because people are people, outside of all of those those dynamics, you got to know who you are from the jump when you come into these spaces. And if you don't, anybody can eat you up, bite on you. It's going to happen. And in many of those spaces, when I go into an environment, I recognize that the environment itself is an environment that doesn't allow for free thinking. You know, everything around you is trapped and talking the same, walking the same, etc. I assume the worst, so nothing surprises me. You know, I do. It's just in me to, I assume the worst. I assume everything is here. So I know what I'm there for. I'm there for assignment. They don't need to know my business. Anybody that's talking my business is lying, because you don't have access to me like that to know my business. You know, so I think that a lot of people are in spaces right now where you had to recalibrate how you trust, and if you trust, and if you should trust. I don't trust everybody just because they say they're a believer. I don't run around and tell everybody I'm a Christian, I'm a believer, I'm a preacher, because people hear that and they want to take advantage of you. Then I got to turn around and cuss you out. You looking at me like you're supposed to be saved. Don't assume that my salvation, don't assume all of that. People have these assumptions. You go into these spaces and you're not really clear. You know what you're getting. It doesn't take you that long to know what a fake is or what somebody real is, because you dealt with enough fakes by now.
See, but what I will say, because Nikiya used to get on me all the time. She'd be like, "Why did you tell them that?" I was like, I was extremely ignorant to all of that, what you just said, right? That good December 31st, 2007, you couldn't have paid me to believe that you couldn't trust someone in the church with your innermost thoughts, right?
Now.
But like I said, that's why I said that's December 31st, 2007. Okay. Now, when we talk about today, what's today's date? August 19th, 2020, that's a totally different ballgame.
Right.
But December 31st, 2007, you couldn't pay me to think that, because in my mind, well, according to this word, if you are a leader, if you are a pastor, if you are a bishop, if this is who you are, then you should be trusted and respected. And the truth of the matter is, see, and I think a lot of it is because I grew up Catholic. So unbeknownst to me, all the inner workings of the good Catholic Church, right? I knew we went to good confessional. I went behind that veil, okay? And me and the priest, I had to tell him all my wrongs. And I ain't never heard the priest, unless he went back there with them good nuns and recited the good wrongs.
Right.
That was the only thing. That's all I knew. So to me, if I trust you as a leader with this information, you're supposed to hold it. Well, hell, had I known that it would be broadcast news throughout the pastor family, throughout the church, throughout the congregation, all this, y'all niggas would have gotten.
Listen. Yeah. Yeah. You have to.
They don't want to talk about that, though. They don't want to talk about that gossip is in the church. They don't want to talk about that envy is in the church. They don't want to talk about that jealousy is in the church. They don't want to talk about that.
Well, let's on another spell. Another conversation is there are actually some of those things that are there. They're actually benefits. There are pros and cons to it. Okay. Those attitudes are a lot of times fostered. Mm-hmm. You know, there are clusters that develop. You know, as your group grows, there are people that will come to compete, period. So yeah, there's going to be competition here. We're not here for the same thing. The assumption that everyone in the church is there for the same thing is just, it's wrong. Some are there for the innocents, you don't know any better. You're prime target. You prime meat. Oh, wow, little holy Catholic girl come in here. They're going to pray over you, speak in tongues. You don't rock enough, move enough. You need some fire. They're going to give you extra prayer. Before you know it, boom, because you haven't had an experience. You have got to be, as scripture says, harmless as a dove, wise as a serpent. Or what does a dove do? Flies away. What does a serpent do? Choke you. All right. You need to be able to, people need to know you'll choke them. They should know. Now I choke you. They should. All of these various temperaments that are oftentimes buried, these are things that are for your protection. Walking in like all is well just because they saying praise the Lord. Oh, no. But I also think that it's either age appropriate and or experience appropriate. And even in your 20s and you wildly, I just believe, early. I believe. Everybody's nice and sweet. Everybody's not like us as a demon. And you move on and you're like, wait a minute. Now hold on a second. And now your mind opens up and then you re-question. But where it lands you is closer to God, further away from people in some of these other spaces. But it'll make you know better who God is, and it'll help you if it falls and lands right. Other than that, make you be like, I don't want to be done with people. Nah. No.
I'll tell you what, it did help because after I think after like the first 6 months I left, came back like 6 months later, left again. But what I will say is that in that leaving, it fortified me, right? Because I began to see things differently, and I began to see things clearly, like really clearly, like, okay, because in my leaving, it's not that a lot of people get that misconstrued. Oh, you left the church, you left God. No, I've never left God. I still read his word. I still studied his word. I still did all of that, but I needed to leave for my own sanity because I needed to understand what was it that I was seeing and what was it that I was experiencing. What was this thing that truly just rocked my whole good world that I needed to leave away from to further understand. And the first time I left the church, it honestly, it brought me to read the Bible even the more, right? So I had to study more to begin to understand, what is this? And then even in the last 2 years of me really like leaving traditional church world or whatever, and just being able to be free enough to follow online and just do what I wanted to do, I began to realize that in all of that leaving, God literally just had to shift my focus. You know what I'm saying? And shifted from being religious, right? Following all these doctrines and all this tradition and all this is what we believe, and you don't believe none of that crap that you're saying you believe, because half y'all full of hell. And really focusing on, okay, relationship. How do you relate to God? How do you commune with God? How do you talk to God? How do you feel him? And just focusing on that. And I had to grow through all of those. And I'm not, and by no means am I trying to say that I am exempt from the errors in which I absolutely did make, because in part of the earlier years, especially with me learning, I made a whole hell of a lot of mistakes. You know what I'm saying? But I didn't think that those mistakes would be personified the way in which they were. I just figured they were all growing pains, and everybody has to learn how to grow, and not that those mistakes were literally going to be, talked about throughout the entire church so everybody knows that you just made a mistake. That stuff should be, some things should be contained in hell. Jesus ain't running around broadcasting the woman at the well, situation. He ain't running around broadcasting the woman caught in adultery situation. So some things, I personally felt that some things needed to be held and contained by leadership. But then I began to realize that half these ninjas is nothing but a bunch of messy carriers of their own self. So therefore, there's nothing that they knew how to contain, because they couldn't even contain their own stuff. So once I realized that, I was free. I was like, you know what? They can't contain nothing, so I ain't got to tell you nothing.
Amen.
Keeping it all in, okay?
It's healthy and wholesome.
Hello.
Healthy and wholesome.
That's what it had to be, because listen.
Well, amen, lots.
Listen. And the reason being is because it almost killed me. So in order for me to begin to understand it, and in order for me to not allow it to harm me, I literally had to begin to understand it, right? Because the truth of the matter is, the way how I truly felt, I really wanted to knock everybody's head off. You understand what I'm saying? Like everybody. because it produced such an anger in me that I didn't even recognize it for my own self, the level of anger that I was literally walking around with. And it wasn't an anger that was, oh, you're angry with God. No, I'm not angry with God. I'm angry with you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm angry with you and what you are doing. I'm angry with you and what you are saying. I'm angry with you and how you are responding. I'm angry with you and your hypocrisy. I'm angry with you and you're straight up just lying. Like you're not even who you say that you are. I got angry with everything that I was seeing. And in my anger, people were like, oh, it's okay to be angry, but sin not. But I was about to sin off on everybody. Like just straight up, we just gonna sin all up in here because my level of anger was so strong because I was literally vexed. I was like walking around like a vexed person because I was vexed as hell, but I had to kind of like flip that vexedness into understanding that, all right, there's going to come a time and you're going to have a platform and you're going to speak about all this vexedness. And you're going to give people the opportunity to speak about all of their vexedness. And folks are going to be angry about their vexedness, but they're going to hear it because they need to understand how you should not act inside of a so-called church. And also the flip side of it is that some of us need to understand what is not a church. Because the truth of the matter is, as much
that's
as
a whole separate broadcast.
It is, because what is not a church, and y'all better know it's coming. Yeah. But the truth of the matter is that some of these things that we are calling church is literally just not church.
Absolutely.
It's just not. You know what I'm saying? If all you feel is demons, then you're not in the church. I'm sorry, you're just not. Jesus taught at the good temple. He didn't call out every single last demon that was in the building. If that's the case, then you're not in the church. Where are you? You in hell's den.
Well, you can't call out what you can't cast out.
Hello, but they be calling stuff out from that good pulpit, standing up there. Next thing you know, this person take that good microphone and they calling out all this stuff. And it's like, well, if I got to call all of that out in the church house, I'm not in the church. I'm somewhere else. And I need to be able to identify where I'm at because all of that is off. All of it is just it's off. And a lot of times, truth of the matter is, half them that call that stuff out is because it's in their own house anyway. Okay, you start calling. You know what? I never forget, and it took me a minute to understand it. Why? Because I had to come out of it. Right. The ex of mine he always called out fornication. He always called out adultery. He always called out homosexuality. Every church he went to had them same sins. And I never could understand why they all got the same sin. Somebody's in adultery. Somebody's in fornication. Somebody's in homosexuality. All this stuff. This one's cheating on this one. It was you. You were the biggest culprit of everything that you were calling out. And these fools still flock to his churches today. And he probably still calling out the same sins. Some of y'all need to come back and tell me whether y'all still hear the same sins being called out. Because some of y'all are just dumb for following. And I'm put that out there. Because some of it is just dumb. It literally is dumb because we're not even ignorant. We know better, but we're so in tune and convinced with this dumbness that we keep calling church. That is literally not church. How you sitting up here calling out adultery and you married me and then married her? How in the world? But you're calling out the adulterous sin in another person. So you're calling out yourself. And then the folks wanted to come to me afterwards and be like, well, because he came to the church and he called out that stuff, but that was in him. Well, did you tell him that? Because you're telling me he came to your church and called out some stuff that was false that was in him. Well, did you tell him that? Because why are you telling me? But it's in the church. That's my point.
You need a separate show. A whole separate one. Well, maybe two.
I'm going to do it too because, people don't fully understand that the church of God I love, right? It's this other thing that people are calling church that I don't like. That honestly, anybody that is a true believer should actually hate, and they should actually detest, because God doesn't like it either. He actually detests it. You know what I'm saying? But when I talk about it, you're bitter, you're hurt.
Well, some aren't going to them. You know, some don't have a concept of all of these worlds. There's so many worlds and underworlds that people don't even know exist. Even if they've been in them, they don't know. You know, some things people only know by experience. People don't have the experience, they don't know.
No, because we want to call out witchcraft. Oh, there's so much witchcraft. Well, what in the world? Your leader. Do you see it in your leader? We want to call out all it. Oh, that's a Jezebel spirit. Well, what do you think you're under? You know, and I listen to a lot of stuff. I do. I listen to a lot of stuff. But when I come across people that can literally tell me to my face and say, and this is not the woman that I interviewed last week. This is a totally different person, actually persons that can tell me, you know, we were all sexually assaulted by our bishop. All. It's not one woman. It's not two women. It's not three women. It's not four. It's a bunch. Right? So when you can literally sit there and tell me that, and then you tell me that this same person is yet still a bishop in the organization, a so-called high-ranking one at that, right? You can tell me that. But then you have a whole class of people, not just one, like I said, a whole class of people that have been hurt by this one person. And you have the audacity to tell me that they need to be quiet, that they need to just deal with it privately. No, they need a voice and they should be heard. Because guess what? What you've called church is not church if that's what that man is doing. And what we've covered up is not church if that's what we've allowed this man to do. And that's why I'm like, I get very disgusted by these things that go on, because I'm like, how in the world do we sit up here and forget, you know, everybody, well, David was this. I'm not talking about David. David did not represent the church. If we truly want to place things in its proper context, he didn't represent the church. But when you are a representative of the church, would this not have been a separate letter by Paul to the church? That's how I view this stuff. I'm like, okay, well, Paul wrote all these letters to the good church because they was acting up. So therefore, would this not be another letter? Would this not be an admonishment? Would this not be, you know what, I'm going to rebuke you? Would this not be that? You know what I'm saying? Because this is what's going on, you know? And that's why I said, you know what I'm not going to do is I'm not going to tell people that they can't have a voice in whatever their situation is. Even if it's outside the church, I'm not going to tell you can't have a voice, because for so long we've just been telling people that they can't have a voice. And I want everybody to have a voice. That's where I'm at.
You too. Amen.
Come on here. Mm-hmm. Because it's in the church.
Amen.
So go ahead, Leron, close this out, because we've been on here almost an hour.
An hour?
Almost.
My closeout. What could the community do, or what would your hope be for those who may be able to listen to you for the first time? What would your hope be for them to, or what would you want them to have as a takeaway for today?
For today, I would want the people to have a takeaway is to understand my heart. That's why I wanted Leron to interview me. I think that it is important for folks to understand the heart of the person that is actually hosting these conversations. Absolutely. Right? Because my heart is not malicious. My heart is passionate. And my heart is for everyone to be free. The reason why I came up with, and the reason why I wanted to discuss it's in the church, is because there are a lot of people that are hurting, men and women alike. And what I wanted was to give them a place to be able to voice what it is, what their it is that is in the church, and also to foster an environment where they can speak freely about it, but also receive a level of healing about it. So one of the things that I want to tell anybody that is listening to me today is reach out to me, contact me via Facebook inbox, whether it's Instagram inbox, whatever the case may be, but reach out to me and contact me, because I truly want your voice to be heard. You know, I believe that there is a culture of people that have truly suffered from spiritual abuse that have been muzzled, and I want to take that muzzle off of you. I don't want you to continue in shame. I don't want you to continue in guilt. I don't want you to continue in hurt. I don't want you to continue in pain. And it's not just you that has experiences with you, because it is also your family and your friends that have experiences with you. My dad to this day has not watched Greenleaf, because he said in his mind, Greenleaf was literally what I live. So therefore, he refuses to watch it because he said it hits too close to home. We are not in this by ourselves. When we hurt, our families hurt. When we hurt, our friends hurt, those that literally walk in close proximity with us. So I believe that it is important to give everybody the opportunity to speak, whatever it is that they need to speak, men and women, because this is not just something that literally just affects women. That's one of the reasons why I had the young man on the podcast in the beginning to talk about it's in the church, because as a pastor's kid, as a son, he experienced some things with men coming into the church, you know, guest preachers coming into the church. And I just believe that it is time out for all of this foolishness. It is time out for all of these playing games. And it is time for us to literally take some of these things very seriously and for us to discuss them, and also offer a level of healing from them. And I also believe that at large, as a church community, it is time for people to stop acting like this stuff does not exist and start addressing what is actually happening. And stop thinking that because someone speaks about it, that they're being messy, that they're bashing the church, that they hate God, because all of that is really and truly far from the truth. What they are doing is speaking truth to power. They are speaking their hurt. They are speaking their pain. And no matter how it comes across to you, it's something that they live. So your opinion on what they're saying truly does not matter, to be honest. You know, and I believe that as a community of believers, we need to stop placing our opinion on people and start hearing their heart. Because if you hurt me, I have a right to express that hurt in any way that I feel that I need to express it, whether you like it or not. And I think that's important, because oftentimes well, that's a spirit, well, that's a this, and what that, and y'all keep placing all these spirits on people when the only thing that's speaking is just a person of hurt. So I believe that is imperative, that we need to stop doing that and start dealing with the actual issues. You know, everybody wants to say, well, that was your experience. Oh, I didn't experience it. It doesn't matter whether you experienced it or not. It happened. And we need to start dealing with what it happened. And I'm going to tell y'all right now, some of y'all leaders need to get your head or whatever from out the sand, because one thing my mother used to always say, I left my head buried in the sand and my ass was exposed. That's why half y'all going through the stuff that y'all going through, because you keep burying your head in the sand and you're leaving your ass exposed. And now you have a group of people, including myself, because I'm raising them up, that is going to call you out with your whole ass exposed, literally. Okay, because some of y'all refuse to do anything. And then you want to sit up here and coddle us victims of a lot of this spiritual abuse that's going on in the church. You want to coddle us. You want to tell us that it's going to be okay. You want to pray for us privately. You want to speak to us privately, but publicly, you're right in there in tune with the person that did the hurt. And I'm here to tell y'all that I'm giving these people the platform to call y'all out as well. Because everybody is going to have their day of reckoning, because it's time out for all of this stuff. And it really is. It is time for, truth be told, the church to begin to resemble the house that God laid out, and not this foolery that some of y'all got going on. And if that means that half y'all little chitlin circuit of churches get shut down, oh well, shut them down. No way. That's where I'm at.
Amen.
And the muzzle has come off.
And the muzzle is off. That is it. Well, again, thank you for having me, and congratulations and much success on the muzzle is off, and on what you touch, what your hands touch. And like I said, you got the passion, you got the power and the momentum. Go forward. Super excited for you.
Thank
Miss
you,
Nikiya Mone.
Come on here, Miss Nikiya Mone. Thank you so much for doing this. Like I said, you were the only person that I knew you could do this. So I thank you. Thank you, Nadia, for jumping on at the good last minute, because she told me, she said, let me think about it. I'm
Assist.
okay. She said, let me think about it. I was like, you're going to do this. This is what we're going to do. So I was happy that she actually did jump on, because like I said, you know, she experienced a lot of this stuff with me, and she rocked out with me when times was rough as ever, and she was there. So, you know, I thank you, and even you, Leron, because you you witnessed some of this crazy over this last 3 years. You witnessed some of this crazy, and you know what I'm saying. I was able to even bounce off of you like, Leron, and you'd be like, okay, what we got to talk about today? Okay, so I appreciate everybody, but I'm just here to tell y'all the muzzle is truly off, and I'm not gonna stop. Like there's no stopping this train, because I truly believe that we are an army of people that truly need to rise up and continue to take this muzzle off, and that's what we're gonna do. So I thank y'all for joining me tonight. I thank y'all for rocking out with the Muzzle Is Off podcast, and just continue to rock out with us. Next week, we have another special guest. His name is Prophet David Glover. He is also a PhD, and we are going to truly get into his story of it's in the church as well. Next month, we're actually going to be talking about mental health, which I think is going to be an awesome topic in order to discuss. And that's what we're going to do. We're just going to keep rocking out, and we're going to keep continuing to take this muzzle off. All right. So y'all have a good night. Thank you for joining, and I will see y'all next week.
Good night.
Good night. Good night.